Hi guys, today we're going to be discussing how to solve proportions using cross multiplication. And when you use the cross multiplication technique, you're going to get an equation. And you know, in an equation, you always got to figure out what the missing variable is. So that's pretty much what we're going to do with these two examples right here. We're going to make an equation and find the missing variable. So we're going to start with our first example here. So 7/10 is equal to 42 nths, okay? So the first step is to cross multiply 7 times n, which will give us 7n. And 7n equals what the product of 10 times 42 is, okay? So we're going to do our math right here. 42 times 10. So 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 4 is 0. No, we'll add our 0 right here. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 4 is 4, which is going to give us 420. So 7n is going to be equal to 420. Okay, so in an equation, our next step is to always isolate the n, okay, or the missing variable, whichever number or whichever letter that number might be. So we're going to divide both sides by 7 just so I can get that n by itself. Okay, so the 7 divided by 7 will cancel itself out, giving us n by itself. So n equals whatever 420 divided by 7 may be. So we're going to do our math over here. Okay, 7 divided by 420. Now we know that 7 can go into 42 6 times, so we would add a 6 right here, and that would give us 42. 42 minus 42 is 0, so that's just going to be 0, and we're going to add our 0 right here. And that's going to be what our n variable is 60. So when we rewrite the equation, or the proportion, excuse me, it will look like this. 7/10 equals 42 60ths. That's what our missing variable is 60. Now looking at the next proportion here, we're going to solve this proportion doing the same steps we did on this one. So I'm going to erase our math over here so we have room, because we're going to have some much bigger numbers over here. Alright, so our first step is to cross multiply once again. 10 times h, right here, 10h equals 19 times 90. Okay, so we're going to figure out what 10h is equal to. So let's do our math over here. 90 times 19. Well, 0 times 9 is 0. 9 times 9 is 81. 1 times 0 is 0. And 9 right here. So let's add up our numbers here. 8 plus 9 is 17. So that's going to give us 1710 is what 10h is equal to. So our next step is to isolate the h. So we're going to once again divide both sides by 10 so we can isolate that h. So those are going to cancel. And we're going to have h equals 117 divided by 10. So let's do our math down here. 10 divided by 17, 10. So 10 can go into 17 one time. So we'll write a 1 here, which is going to give us 10. And 17 minus 10 is going to give us 7, so we're going to bring that 1 down. And 10 can go into 71 7 times, which is going to give us 70. And 70 minus, or 71 minus 70 is going to give us 1. And we know that's going to give us 10. So 10 goes into 10 one time. So our h is going to be equal to 171. So when we rewrite our proportion without our missing variable, it's going to look like this. 10 over 19 equals 90 over 171. And that is how you solve a proportion using cross multiplication, building an equation to find your answer. Now, so what happens when you have a missing variable on the left-hand side of the equation? It's the same process, but I'm going to go ahead and show you 2 examples so we can see how we work them out as well. Just give me a second to erase all of this. Alright, so our first one with our missing variable on the left-hand side is going to be 8s equals 16/20. Now, the first thing I recognize in this equation, or in this proportion, is that 16/20 can be reduced down to an even smaller fraction. So 16 can go into 4, and it can also go into 20. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Okay, so 16 divided by 4 is going to give us 4. So we're going to write a 4 here. And 20 divided by 4 is going to give us 5. So that's our simplified ratio here. So 8 over s equals 4/5. Now we can follow the same process we did on the previous 2. Cross multiply. First one is 8 times 5. So 8 times 5 equals s times 4. And I'm going to use a parenthesis to signify multiplication and to save some space, okay? So s times 4. Now, the next step is to figure out what 8 times 5 is. 8 times 5 is 40. So we're going to write 40 here. 40 equals s4. Okay? So now we also have to, once again, isolate our s. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. And we're going to cancel that. They will cancel each other out. So 40 divided by 4 is 10. So 10 is going to be what our s is equal to. Okay? So now I'm going to rewrite our proportion here using s, or using 10 in place of the s. So it would be 8 over 10 is equal to 16/20. And that's how that proportion is solved. And that's by reducing our 2 numbers right here. Okay, we're going to do one more. And this is going to be the same process. The missing variable is going to be on the left-hand side as well. And it's going to be p over 3 equals 5 over 75. Again, I see that we have a ratio that can be simplified to an even smaller problem. And we're going to divide both sides by 5. And we're going to get 1 over 15, excuse me. My math was off. 1 over 15. So now we're going to rewrite this proportion using our simplified proportion here. Okay? Alright, so we're going to cross multiply p times 15. Okay? P times 15 equals 3 times 1. Okay? Alright. So the first step is to figure out what 3 times 1 is, which is 3. So we're going to write 3 here equals 15 times p. Alright? Now we're going to have to isolate our p once again. So we're going to divide both sides by 15. These two are going to cancel, and we're going to put 15 right here, and our p is going to be equal to 3 divided by 15 gives us 5. So p equals 5. Okay, so we're going to rewrite our proportion without the missing variable p, and it's going to look like this. 5 over 3 equals 5 over 75. And that is how you solve proportions using cross multiplication. Thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.